I'll call the East Lyme Board of Selectmen special meeting to order. If y'all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank y'all. Tonight's special meeting is strictly on a budget review. We have the appropriate departments in the room, I see. We will break at 7 o'clock for a town meeting, then go into our regular meeting. We could reconvene this special meeting at the end if we haven't finished up. So we start off with the Niantic Fire Department. So that'd be Chief. Do you want to come on up and maybe have a seat with Anna? And this is a pretty free-flowing discussion. We want to review. We want to talk about what's in there. I let the questions fly, maybe in an orderly way. Anybody want to start?
I can start off. That would be helpful.
Thank you.
I noticed that on account 301, the fuels, including propane, that you have that in for $3,000, and that covers both buildings, both yours and the substation?
Yes.
Okay. I was just curious because Flanders, which only has one building, is predicting the same amount of money. So it doesn't seem like they should both be equal if you're doing two buildings and they're doing one. Just want to make sure you're not shortchanging yourself. I don't want you to be freezing in there.
No,
Keeps them alert if it's cold.
we're fine on the fuel. The only exception to that is we haven't received a letter to the ambulance committee requesting the ambulance purchase of diesel fuel for both departments. I haven't put it in my budget, but I cannot speak for the ambulance committee.
Right.
So if we don't receive a letter, then we're gonna have to go back and revisit that $3,000 figure for diesel fuel.
Right. I was unaware of
It's
that.
gonna go up substantially.
I was unaware that it was supposed to come from my office,
Yes.
under my pen. So I found that out today and had a discussion. Well, I sent an email request, and a formal letter will arrive next week
Okay.
to the Ambulance Society. I was unaware that that was supposed to come from me. There's no book of instructions that were left on my desk. So nobody told me to do it. I wish I had known earlier. We would have
I hope you're
had that
making a
set.
note of that.
Oh, it will
If you ever
certainly-
have a successor, so he or she will not be.
And
Most
in the
definitely.
past, how much have they contributed? Roughly.
My diesel fuel for Niantic would probably be around $15,000. And then whatever Chief Lev uses in Flanders. So it's you're probably looking at about $25,000-$30,000
Which isn't reflected.
for everybody.
Which isn't reflected here at all.
No, it's not here at all.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, does the Ambulance Society typically pick up all the cost of the diesel fuel or just a portion of it?
Everything.
Okay.
All the fire apparatus, the pickup trucks, the ambulances. The only thing comes out of the fuel account for our station is the brush truck and the chief's car.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, on 221, on radio maintenance, I notice a decrease there. And is that because we finally stabilized the situation with getting radio upgrades? I believe last year, didn't we buy a couple of radios?
Last year we needed, I believe it was 20 portable radio batteries, and that's why it's a significant increase. And most of the radios and pagers and stuff are fixed under the radio contract for dispatch, so.
Okay.
There's things like pager clips and things like that we have to buy, and that comes out of that $500.
Okay. Line 218, OSHA. You had requested $17,000. Mr. Nickerson felt that that wasn't necessary at this time. Are all of these tests required
Yes,
that you're doing for OSHA?
yes.
So if OSHA comes in and demands that you test things that aren't covered by the 13,000, we're gonna have to pick up the cost for that.
Well, the newest test that was put in for was governed by the National Fire Protection Association. NFPA comes out, and that's your standard of care for the fire service. And in many instances, they mirror OSHA back and forth, and I'm not sure what OSHA says, but the NFPA come out last year with the 1962 standard stating that we're going to have to test fire hose. Well, we test fire hose now. However, what they did, they extended that. They want all the valves tested. They want appliances tested, if we use a gate valve or something like that. Any of the pre-connect hose lines, the lines that are dangling off the side of the fire engine, they have to be tested as a system with the nozzle, so you have the correct flows, which we're not trained to do. If we use our hose testing machine, that gauge would have to be calibrated once a year. So it's a big, significant increase, so that's why we put the money in to have the hose testing done.
So you would contract with?
We would contract with,
somebody
yes.
to come in and perform the testing?
They would
for
come
you?
in, on one day, they would contract for the, test all the fire hose and the appliances, and put it back on the truck, and away we go. So when saying that, when it went down to 13,000, we don't have enough money to accomplish that hose testing task.
And here's the reasoning behind that. What I'm hoping to do is find a significant savings in them doing all the OSHA tests together, and maybe even wrap some. Maybe the ambulance has some OSHA tests too. Maybe the police do. Maybe there's things that when we bring a company in to test equipment, whether it's radios, valves and hoses are going to be very specific to a fire department. But there's all sorts of things they have to test for that they were doing independently. And one department was testing a bunch of things over here, and another department was testing different things and some of the same things. So let's bring it all together, and we got to find savings in doing it together. Maybe, and maybe not. Maybe we're too light here, but maybe we can get a specific list of exactly what the costs are and go out and shop that in this market and say, is there a company out there that will do it for $30,000 to $26,000 and treat it as one department? I know that's not how you typically operate, but we got to find some savings and some economies of scale here at some place.
And sorry, Chief, one presumes Flanders is going to have the similar kind of testing?
Correct.
Yes.
So would you go out together and have the company come in?
I talked to Field Services, the company that would do the fire hose testing, in order to get a price, because
Yeah.
we had no idea what it would be. And they said there would be some savings if they could do both departments on the same day, which is fine. Ladder testing, I'm not sure about. I'm not sure if they're going to generate a savings or not.
Right. But we would make the approach of,
Definitely.
What kind of reduction could you give us if we give you this contract to do it all at one fell swoop, as opposed to sending people out on 2 or 3 different days?
Is it possible that you and Chief Lewandowski can get together and get a price list now
Sure.
on all the OSHA testing you need? So this commission, and of course we're going to be going up against a board of, not up against, but positioning and presenting this budget to the Board of Finance. Let's have an exact figure. Not contracts, not signed contracts, but let's get a specific idea, because it seemed a little loose when we were first reviewing it. You were at 10,000 a couple of years ago. You had asked for 18,000. I brought it down to 13. The other department, they'll have the shot at it, was 8,000 a couple of years ago. They went up to 18. So I brought it down to just under 14,000. So maybe we can get an exact price instead of having a moving target here, and that'll help us all, because we want to only help you.
Well, we appreciate that.
Yeah.
But the problem that we face is when a standard is released by the National Fire Protection Association, or an OSHA standard comes into being, what happens is if somebody gets hurt and it goes to litigation, and you have a lawyer standing there waving a piece of paper at you, saying, are you aware of this standard? Yes, we are aware of it. Well, what are you doing about it?
Right.
You know, and we just want to have all our equipment operate proficiently, and we also want to keep all of our firefighters safe.
Oh, absolutely.
So do we.
Yeah.
So that's
So do
the whole premise behind the OSHA account.
Yeah.
Yeah. But as the first selectman said, I think it would be helpful to have, actual costs involved, and then any savings that you can make across the two departments by working together, by, putting one contract together as opposed to two on separate days. That leaves more money for, other important things that
Right.
you're doing.
Other questions, comments? Anna, do you have anything for us?
I'm good.
Okay.
Yes, under the building maintenance, the general cleaning supplies and that sort of thing, I know that either last year or the year before, we talked again about group purchasing. Is that being done?
No.
Okay, so you're still purchasing,
We use, for most of our cleaning supplies, we use Granger.
okay,
And I talked to Ron Bentz quite a while ago, and they were pretty much in line with the pricing that he was getting from his contractor.
okay. And do you order these on an as-needed basis,
Yes,
as opposed to getting a bulk order for the year?
that's correct.
Anything else?
Just one more thing on the OSHA. We were provided with this year's expenses, and they were $15,600. And I would assume that we would be required to do this same testing again, and we're only at 13,000. So,
15,000?
It's the last page of the book. Oh, in that section.
so we have a breakdown here of the required testing.
And that's for one department. And
Yes.
And the question is there economies of scale? If the both of them did it on the same day, would both of them have a $15,000 bill? Would we be paying $30,000 as taxpayers? Or is there a way that we can get, is there an economy of scale? If a company comes out, can they test all the hoses in a day and as if it was one department instead of two? And that's where I'm coming in with a 26 instead of 30.
Okay. All right. Again, as was pointed out, I think we have to be cautious here because this is a federal mandate, and unfortunately, in this line of work, accidents happen. So,
It might be, because this has gone from an $8,000 item, carried over the years, so we're pushing 20.
You're right.
now. It's a big deal. Maybe we don't want to do your job, and we don't, we can't be expected to know your job. But maybe if you could even lay out in a spreadsheet what's required, and if it's annually, and some might be biannually, some might be every 7 years. If we can kind of get an idea of how that schedule works, that might be helpful for.
I hate
for
to
all
say
the
it, but everything
commissions.
that you have in front of it is annual.
And
Yeah, that's incredible.
It is. And
Regardless of the age of an item. So if you
Right.
buy a hose not off the shelf, but get one delivered by UPS tomorrow, sometime in the next 12 months, it has to be checked.
we got brand new fire hoses going on the
They
apparatus.
haven't been used yet and
Right.
have to be checked. Incredible.
So it's, the ironic part of the whole thing, when you look at all your NFPA standards, if you open up the first page of the standard, it gives you all the authors. And they're all contractors in their field. And the sad part is many municipalities don't have the funding to turn around and send somebody on a committee. So this is what we end up with.
Right.
The manufacturer's representative,
Right.
their manufacturer's recommendations, and that's sad.
Is
Will-
the I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Is the 15.6 email that we get number from John McDonald, is that the latest number that you think it's going to cost for next year, or is it the 17?
I thought this is what they spent.
Is that
The
what
total-
that's what they spent this year? But does that include the new standards?
Total in your,
Yes.
in your,
So I see the new. So
email is 15.6, and you would ask for 17. So are you asking for
The 17 was, it included the hose testing. I think it was 5,000.
The 15.6 includes that too.
15.6 is the price we need, yes.
But you asked for 17,000.
So is this just a more refined number? The
It's more of a
15.6?
refined number.
Okay, so we're looking to hopefully save 2,600 on each one to combine them. Is that correct, Mr. Nickerson?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And if we can't, we can't.
Right.
With the last OSHA inspection, were there deficiencies that were required to be corrected?
We have not had an OSHA inspection. We've been able to comply. Usually OSHA comes down when something
What
happens.
happens? OSHA comes in when there's usually a problem.
When there's a problem, like, for example, when in the city of Hartford, when the firefighter lost his life on Blue Hills Avenue, OSHA is all over that fire department. And I don't envy them in any way, shape, or form. And they start and they look at everything. So
Thank
that's
you.
why we try to stay on top of all our OSHA requirements for that reason, so.
Okay, thank you.
I think what Mrs. Hardy was asking then was when you did your inspections last year, and you did do significant inspections last year.
Yes, we did.
Were there any deficiencies found?
No,
Okay.
no, all the ladders passed, the hose passed. The
Okay.
only difference this year, in this budget year, will be testing the nozzles, the valves, and all that stuff. They haven't been tested.
And they're required every year?
They're required now, yes.
Okay. That's the new thing you were
That's
talking
the new
about?
thing, the 1962 standard.
Good. Okay. I know. We gotta keep up to date on this stuff, and your safety is important, and you know what? The liability part is important too. You know, safety first and people first, but we have to protect the town for liability
Well,
claims
you're right,
and
and
such.
that's-
So, this is important stuff, and I don't mean to, be slicing and dicing here. We're just trying to find some efficiencies, that's all, that's all. We gotta get it done, though, absolutely. So, if you both can kind of combine and, reach out to these companies and try to get a solid price and say, this is what we're dealing with, can we get all this done with third? I know it's different companies, so I know it's not a package deal.
Right.
But if we could reach out now and get a price for the three houses, might help us. Appreciate it.
We'll go to work on it.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions?
I'm all set.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm all set.
And this is more for Anna and the First Selectman, line 240, building systems maintenance, service contract for diesel exhaust systems, overhead door maintenance, et cetera. Do we have one contract for the town, or is every department contracting separately?
I think it depends on what it is.
I mean, again, this is somewhere
Microphone.
we could look at for savings. It occurs to me we have lots of overhead doors, diesel, exhaust systems, et cetera, emergency generator. As the First Selectman said, I'm looking, if we bundled it, could we get a better price?
Right.
As opposed to fire department going out and the police department going out, and
I do believe that most of the maintenance contracts are coordinated by the building maintenance department.
Right. But not the firehouses.
It depends on what it is at the firehouse, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
anyway, it's just something that we might want to look at again on the,
That might be the other way of doing an efficiency
Right.
study.
yeah.
It's a good idea. It's a great
Okay.
idea. All set, folks?
Oh, and another one again on the same line, 201, telephone contract for stations, an increase in cell phone plan. Are we buying our cell phone minutes together?
Our cell phone minutes are pooled, yes.
So for across the whole town,
That's
on the
correct.
town government side? Obviously not the Board of Ed,
That's correct also.
which is another kettle of fish, to mix metaphors. Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? Chief McDonald, thank you for what you do.
Oh, great, thank you for your support.
Extend our thanks to your entire crew.
I will, thank you.
Appreciate it. It's not in front of me, so my guess is Flanders Fire Department.
I think you guessed right.
That would make sense. Hi, Chief.
Fine, thank
Good
you.
evening, Chief.
How are you?
Another day, we're here.
Been a hell of a day. What we got? Folks, any questions? Obviously, I got your email earlier today, which alerted me, frankly. You were the one that tipped
We
me off.
and we had discussed it. My guess is we probably were involved in other conversations at the same time. So
Yeah, I just didn't realize it had to come from me, and it was a certain time period.
Yep.
And I understood it happened, but it could have happened.
and I could have put
Already.
I could have put it earlier.
It's okay.
Let us all know.
I'm sure, the ambulance is a good partner with the town, the ambulance crew. So we'll work those details out,
Absolutely,
and we might be having to do that after the fact, obviously, because you're sitting in front of us tonight. But we can assume at least and
will
go
work it
forward.
out.
Okay. So, and again, what we're talking about is the fuel donation that the Ambulance Association chips in for our fire departments. Questions, folks?
Chief, line 223, small equipment, there's an increase from 2,500 to 6,000. You explained that it's the purchase of radio, a new multiband radio, which will help for communications with Waterford and the city of New London, which obviously you do work with on occasion. What are you currently using, and what would not having this, what kind of an impact would not being able to have this new radio be?
We currently use nothing.
Okay, so in other words,
It doesn't exist. What's supposed to exist does not work. So as many times as we have gone to Waterford, it does not work.
So is this our end, their end? We don't know whose end?
How about if I said
No
our-
comment?
Yeah, our end, it's everybody. What has occurred, I'll let, and Mr. Morris can pipe in if I'm wrong, but what occurs is Waterford's got a black box. It's a magic box. Waterford's on a different frequency. We're in another frequency, and the black box is supposed to put both frequencies together so we can talk.
Right.
It doesn't work.
The string is broken.
Yes.
Okay.
And I've been to the
Two tin
the
cans and a
lieutenant
string.
in Waterford to tell him it's broken, and he says it's working. And he'll switch the box, and it works. But when we go to a call, it's not working.
So are we confident that this new purchase will allow,
What I'm hoping to
black
do is
boxes?
cut out the black box.
okay. So we
And
would not need this internal mediation
the part
make
that's
the
broken,
frequencies
the
work.
part that I'm claiming is broken, I'm trying to cut out. And this radio would do that. That's what I'm trying to do.
How does Niantic do it now? Do they have a similar?
No, they do it. They would try to use the same black box.
Can they communicate now? Are they having issues?
I don't know that answer.
Okay.
They're using the same black box that you're using that's broken.
If they're using it, then they would be using the same black box. I don't know. I don't. To be honest, I guess I don't listen to what Niantic does when they go to Waterford.
John, you're not on microphone, so I'd have to repeat. Do you communicate to Waterford?
Yes,
We could get you on the podium. Now that you're that far up, you might as well just get on microphone so we can say hi to you.
We try to use the black box. Sometimes we're successful, sometimes we're not. The thing of it is we don't go to Waterford with the frequency of Flanders does. Flanders interacts with the town of Waterford quite a bit on 95, especially on the borderline exits, which we don't do. So, for every probably 20 times Jim goes to Flanders goes to Waterford, we may go once.
So it's not as critical an issue for you and
That is
Niantic as it
correct.
is for Flanders. Okay,
That is
thank you.
correct.
But when you do communicate with them, you use.
We usually go over there, and I'll go up to the incident commander and take one of his portable
Okay.
radios. And
So you're
so
not
we
using
can-
any equipment
Yeah, so we can.
of our own.
If they don't answer me, I just walk up to the incident commander and I'll take one of his radios.
I get it.
And that's
I
what,
get it.
and that's what's occurring.
Communicate.
Yeah,
And we should, unfortunately, we should know what's occurring before we arrive.
we get it. Yeah. All right.
But for the frequency we go over there, it's, we don't go that much, so it's
Okay. Thank you.
okay.
If we were to get something like this, could that be something that could be used by Niantic too?
No.
It would be separate, just, okay,
Yeah, that's one radio for one piece of equipment.
okay.
Jim, Chief, how If you had a rate on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is this for command operations when you do have to work in conjunction with Waterford? Because I know how frustrating communicate, or the lack thereof can be.
I think at this point, after having not had it for years now, I don't think it's very important. I would like to be able to catch up with time though, and because one of these days we are gonna get caught, and it's gonna be a critical issue at that time.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
I'm all set.
Your fuel, just to carry on what Mrs. Hardy had talked about, your fuel is the same as their two buildings. Any clue? Any reason why?
I guess my comment is this $3,000 has been there for my last 3 or 4 budgets, and I'm very confident that it was there for Chief Foley's. It's the same $3,000 we've always used. Now, maybe Ms. Johnson can look back and see if we actually used 3,000, and a lot of that actually comes and goes for the propane issue.
Right.
If the generator is used, if we last year, the year before, whenever it was, we lost
2 years,
power.
yeah, sure,
We
sure.
needed a lot more fuel
Right.
that time.
Right.
Last year, we didn't need that kind of fuel, so fuel is fuel, and it comes and goes as you use it, unfortunately. So 3,000 seems to work, so we just keep putting it in there.
Does your fuel come through the town's buying power? Are you using the same vendor and the same, we have a town
No,
fuel
because of
purchase?
the small quantities that we purchase.
Because of small
by.
tanks.
Right, small tanks.
So if they don't spend the 3,000, the money's returned to the town, obviously. And that's been the case, you're saying, for many years. Do you have any other comments about the OSHA issue? I mean, do you kind of, same thing they're dealing with?
I don't think there's as much cost saving. Is there cost savings? Yes, I believe there probably is. Is there as much as Mr. Nickerson is hoping there is? No, I don't think there is. I went over to Shipmans, which does both departments, OSHA and NFPA testing for the SCBA's, the breathing packs, and there isn't any. The number, there's a certain number, whatever the number is, $100 per pack, and they
Yeah.
do their testing, and that's what it's going to be. Doesn't matter if you have 1 or 100, it's going to be that number. There was a discussion a year or 2 ago about purchasing hose. The more hose you buy, that's not a true statement. Unless you're in New York City and you buy thousands of feet of hose a year, we don't buy enough to warrant the cost savings. Now, Mr. McDonald, Chief McDonald is correct. I am sure there's going to be a cost savings for the hose testing if they come and do both departments and one shot in one day, because that means they save in transport costs. You know, those. But what is that number? So we're not talking. I don't believe we're talking thousands of dollars